Hello, welcome to the channel. My name is Kevin Campbell, and I am an artist. I have always been an artist, and thankfully, I will always be an artist. Today we are working on a good friend of mine, her portrait. Her name is Gina, and I won't be really talking too much about her in this episode. I will save that for the last episode when I am finished with this piece of art. Today, I want to talk to you guys about the gift. What is the gift? Well, in my case, I truly believe that the gift that I was given is the gift of art. The gift of being creative, the gift of expressing myself artistically through many different mediums, most particularly painting. And as far as painting is concerned, one of the most challenging and rewarding artistic things that I have ever done is portraits. And so at this point, I've made a few changes with things, and this is Portraits of the Past. Why did I call it Portraits of the Past? Well, because generally, in most cases, I am painting something from a picture that was taken in the past. It is seldom, if ever, do I have an opportunity to paint from a live drawing, live person type thing. And so usually I'm working from a photograph from yesterday. And that is exactly what I'm doing with this picture. It was taken some time ago. Now, as an artist, if you are an artist, you will certainly understand what I am about to say. It will relate to you to the depths of your soul. Art brings you immense joy, but it can also bring you terrible, terrible pain and such. You will find yourself, as I have found myself, questioning the gift to the point where you almost can only perceive it as a curse, because you feel that it is a malady. I have felt that it is a malady of trying to express something within myself that I can't articulate in words. And so it becomes something where at one point in time or another, you feel that the whole idea of being an artist is difficult. It presents emotional problems. It presents sometimes even physical problems, spiritual problems. When I think of things, I think about how here very recently I have lost people that I deeply love and cherish. I've had people walk away from me that I truly love and deeply miss. I've had people that have been taken away from me, that I hone my fingers for the emptiness that I have in them and my arms, and it is crushing. And with everything that has happened to me in my near recent past, all I could see about art is how it has been problematic in my life. And I actually came to the decision, made the decision that I would no longer paint anymore. It was just too painful. And for those of you who know, this particular painting was going to be the last painting that I would ever do. It was so painful and so traumatic, and I felt that because my heart was broken, that my art was broken. You see, if you look at the word heart, it is he art. And with a broken heart, well, I couldn't art. And I couldn't see art as being something that could bring me through the depths of my pain, that couldn't ease my insecurities, that couldn't fix my problems. And in so many places and in so many times, I put so much pressure on myself to produce, to make it grow, to make it become something that would save me from myself. You know, I can certainly say, and many artists do, try to paint their way out of poverty. I put so many things on art. I put so many responsibilities for it to do things that it literally isn't capable of doing. And then when it fell short, well, I fell short. So in the depths of my depression, in the depths of my despair, I could only see that with a broken heart that I could no longer move forward artistically, that I could no longer create, as that the thing that I had created up until that point was misery and heartache. And how do you continue to do something that brings you pain, right? Well, since then, I have had numerous conversations with great, loving friends that offered me their thoughts, that offered me their advice, their suggestions, and offered me something that I desperately needed, and that was love, you know, and understanding. And they listened to what I had to say, how I felt, what I was thinking, and in every case, they all accepted where I was, what was going on, and how I was handling it. But at the end of those conversations, they all unanimously had a profound feeling that I should never, ever stop. That I should one day, hopefully, find it in me again to see the joy, to see the love, and to see the blessing that the gift of art is. And then I had what I guess people refer to as a moment of clarity, a come to Jesus moment. And I realized something very deep and very profound, something that touched me back to my childhood and what I thought it was to be an artist, what I felt it was to be an artist, and what I understood even in my adolescent, immature mind, what it is to be an artist. And I realized that there is no way that God would ever give you a gift that at the same time could be a curse. The reality of it is that the curse came from me. I cursed myself artistically. It wasn't that God gave me something that would ultimately destroy me or bring me down or tear me apart or create great loss in my life. That was me. Those were all my things. And those things were things that I created and then looked at art as being the culprit, looked at art as being the reason for my dilemma. And when I, in essence, tried to force art to pull me out, it isn't capable of doing that. You know, it isn't capable. Art is not capable of fixing you. It can only help you to fix yourself. And I desperately needed fixing of myself. And with that, I took a day to stop everything. You know, I took a day to step away from things and really, really deeply self-analyze. And in the process of this, what I had to come to terms with, and what I am still currently coming to terms with, is the circumstances in which I found myself. Now, we all go through difficulties. We all go through traumas. And the thing about those difficulties and those traumas is that those things do not define us. It is not the problem, it is how we handle it. And I can certainly say in my life, I have handled all of my problems poorly. All of them. Every one of them. It stems from childhood trauma. It stems from teenage trauma. It stems from early 20s trauma. It stems from late 20s trauma. It stems from trauma in my 30s, trauma in my 40s, and even trauma all the way through up into my 50s. And in that, what I have done as a mechanism was find a way to see that the things that occurred to me were things that had the hands of other people's involvement. And many times when there are people involved in your problems, it's easy to blame them, point the finger at them, say that they are the cause of the problems, and ignore oneself. And I was a person who was very good at self-analyzing. You know what I mean? I internalized a lot of things. I was the type of person who believed that there was always some place in there where I was responsible. And between other people and myself, there was a whole lot of things that made whatever the situation I was going through on multiple levels terrible, you know, to say the least. But then many years ago, I had a change of heart about how I saw life, how I saw myself, how I saw the universe. And it became easier for me to rationalize the idea of forgiveness. And it became one of those things where I could easier forgive other people for whatever hand they had in my life that I felt was bad, traumatic, or, you know, what have you. And so I learned that forgiveness is a gift that you give to yourself, right? Forgiveness isn't about other people. Forgiveness is, knowing that someone did someone horrible to you, and, holding on to the anger, holding on to all of the bad feelings about them is really just self-damage. It doesn't really do much for them one way or another. It affects them in many cases, not one way or another. To be quite honest with you, most of the people that did anything to me ever, never, not one time ever asked me for forgiveness. So I had to learn to just forgive out of my own self-worth, right? The problem with that is that self-worth was so fragile that I couldn't forgive me. And one of the biggest things that I have come to learn over my lifetime easily was that I never forgave myself. Forgiveness of self comes from self-awareness of the love for yourself. And I can admit it, I stopped loving myself when I was a teenager. And I went through many, many years, many, many decades not loving myself, hardly even liking myself. And I put that responsibility for others to love me, to fill my cup. And the truth of the matter is that when you don't love yourself, that is a cup with no bottom. And it is impossible. It is literally impossible for anyone, any person, whether it be your mother and father, whether it be your siblings, whether it be family members or friends, whether it be your spouse, girlfriend, children, no one is capable of loving you so much that it fills your bottomless cup. And people get tired. People will pour everything that they possibly can into you, and it is never enough because the cup is bottomless and it just flows right through. And what I had to learn, what I had to see, what I had to understand was that before I can love anybody else, I have to first love me. Man, let me tell you, that is something where it was a foreign idea to me. The only person that I ever saw myself was someone trying to please other people, to get validation from other people, to get confirmation that I was a good person, that I was a worthy person from others. And then when I would get that from them, it would feel good for a minute or two, but as long as it took for that to go through the cup, out the bottom, and into the ether, and there I was again, empty. And in many cases, I put the responsibility on others to love me to the point where I could function. And that's not fair to anybody. And so in having a epiphany, a revelation, in having a light shine on me in the darkness that was so blinding, I couldn't see anything but the glory of my existence, that I was worthy of love, that I am worthy of being in love and having love and experiencing love and using these things to heal me. But before any of those things come into play, I had to come to terms with myself. I had to look in the mirror and have that conversation with myself on who I am, what I am, who I want to be, and who I can be. And with that, I began to see myself in a little bit different light. I began to feel something in myself that I have literally never felt since my early teenage years, before heartbreak came into play, right? And at that point, now seeing who I am, where I have been, and where I wanted to go, I had to, in the process of forgiving myself, learn to let go of things. I had to realize that I can't hold on to things, right? I can't hold on to objects, trinkets, little doodads and things that remind me of, things that happened, souvenirs. A lot of times these things, are sort of touchstones to a moment. Man, none of that stuff means anything. I see that because having recently lost both of my parents, they have a house full of their stuff. And I promise you, they don't miss any of it. So it's learning that, no object is going to be a fulfiller, right? So let go of these things because they are holding me down, the weight of trying to hold these things. And then I had to learn one of the most difficult things about letting go, and that is letting go of people. I've had people that I removed from my life out of anger, and I've had people remove themselves out of my life for probably the same exact reason. And to let go of people that you love it's an impossible feeling, right? You feel like, if you let go of someone that you love, that you are going to lose any opportunity for reconciliation, for the possibilities of the future and what may or may not happen. I had to learn to let go because I don't have control over anything. And that's another thing that I had to learn to let go of, and that's control. I don't control anything. I'm sitting here and I'm doing this painting and it would seem like I have control over it. But the reality of it is that I don't. I have no control over the outcome of this painting. All I can do is look at it and say that just like every painting, it is an example of life. It starts off as a blank canvas, and then you start to put paint on it, right? You start to put dabs of color, and you start to put things in certain places and arrange things in certain ways, and it seems like you have control. And then somewhere in the middle, if you have any idea of what it is to paint, portrait especially, right? Somewhere in the middle, and this is kind of where I am in this painting, right? Having, really just finished putting the base coats on, somewhere in the middle of it, it looks horrible. It doesn't look anything like you want it to look. And there are things about it that make you feel like, ugh, what am I doing? This can't be possibly right at all, and that can be quite discouraging. And at that point, I realized that you have to continue. You have to move on. You have to keep going, right? Now, these are lessons that I've learned in many different things, in many different places, in many different ways. But the actual application of these things sometimes has become difficult. And in this case, this is where my best example for you is that no matter what, You know, it is about getting to the finish line, right? It is said that if you are going through hell, don't stop, keep going. And so at that, I realize that I got to keep going. I can't stop. I can't let things that were yesterday affect my now or tomorrow, because those things are not moving forward. Those things are remaining where you are. I don't want to preach, because I'm not a preacher, but there was a passage where a sick man is by a well, and Jesus comes to him and says, "Will you be healed?" And that's the question, right? Will you? It's not whether or not you want to, but you have to be willing to get up and be healed. You have to be willing to get up and move on, right? And to do that, you have to forgive yourself. And that, my dear friends, is the gift. It isn't my creativity. It isn't my skill set or my talents. It isn't anything. The gift is the gift of forgiving yourself. And so I am forgiving myself. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for the next episode.